Welcome to the episode 8, Exploring Woodstock History with Janine Fallon Mower. Black History Month and everyday people are the subject of my episode today. I took a field trip today and I'm here on top of Meads Mountain and I'm standing across from the KTD Monastery. It's a bit of a circuitous route how I got here, but if you stay with me, I'll explain. I've been working with John D. Elwin. He's fine-tuning the timeline of his father, Deanie Elwin's ownership of the brass rail on Rock City Road. I had a few minutes to thumb through my mom's handwritten recollections, and I was searching for the word Deanie. I came across one short paragraph that she wrote. However, the paragraph sparked my thoughts in a completely opposite direction. The contents of the paragraph set me to thinking about residents of Woodstock who are Black Americans, and how little is known about Black American Woodstockers. My goal today is to share with you very short stories about two people I can recall, and the third person, the person my mom wrote about. I will read this just as she wrote it in her 1930 vernacular. There are two pieces of information in the writing that are important to local history. One is about Deanie, and the other one is about Maude. This is a story from Jim Hutchins. Deanie was the second cook at the Knife and Fork. Harold Sissom ran it, and his chief cook, Maude, a black lady, emphasized her directions to the crew by slamming a cleaver down on the chopping block. Now, this is a recollection about people in the 1920s in Woodstock, and it got me to wondering how many other Black Americans were employed in the little restaurants that were springing up in Woodstock at that time. Then I had an image of Paul Jones pop into my head. Now, Paul worked at Lou Wilson's in the Woodstock garage. This is the site of the mobile station on Mill Hill Road. The site is now up for sale. As a 10-year-old girl, I would accompany my dad or my mom when they went to get gas or perhaps to look to buy a new car. I remember Paul, a little bit, but I never knew anything about him other than he lived in Kingston and came to Woodstock to work. I reached out to Terry Breitenstein and Denise and Joe Clark to see what their recollections of Paul might be, and I thank them for taking part in this. What do we know? Paul Jones, from Kingston. He may have been part of a Kingston bocking circuit. We're not sure about that, but that's what we think. He liked to sit on his stoop at home in Kingston and play guitar. He worked for Lou pumping gas, and he was also the new car prep guy for Herbie Gray. Herbie Gray we know as One a Day Gray. That's what his goal was, a car a day for sale. He sold out of the Woodstock garage location. In the early years of his relationship with Lou, the loan of a car was said to be the remuneration for his work. Occasionally, Lou and Paul would have disagreements, and Lou would fire him on the spot. Paul would be seen hitchhiking to Kingston, and people who knew the situation would pick him up and take him home. When Lou put an ad in the paper for a car washer, well, Paul would answer the ad, and Lou would hire him back. In the later years, Paul is said to have had a motorcycle to transport him to Kingston and back. Now, I imagine that there's family that are related to Paul Jones in Kingston, and I feel like there's more to his story. So why are we here at Meads on a beautiful winter day? It's a busy day here at the parking lot for Overlook Mountain. People are hiking, and so here's why we're here. So for two summer seasons, and it was 1931 and 1932, my grandmother, Ruth Davis, worked as a chambermaid. She was a cleaning lady. She was a housekeeper. She did whatever needed to be done. And at this time, she was working for the Huddy family that was running the Meads Mountain House that used to stand behind me. My grandmother, my aunt, and my mother, they lived at Klein's, which is about a mile further down the road, closer to the McDaniel boarding house. During the workday, my mom and aunt would have the day to themselves to explore the mountainside, and they did. It was a beautiful time for them up here. However, there were times when the young girls hung around Meads and they got to know the cook, and his name was Andrew Jackson Banks, and he was another Black American living in Woodstock. I have a photo of Andrew Jackson Banks, and I will post it on the blog woodstockflea.blogspot.com in the next few days. And I will leave you with the words my mom used to describe Andrew Jackson Banks, the cook at Meads. He was the kindest, nicest man you'd ever want to meet. If you have recollections about Black Americans living in Woodstock, send them to me and I will forward them to the Historical Society of Woodstock. I can be reached at woodstockfleamarket.roadrunner.com. Till the next time.